Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
It's the last Reality Bytes of the year, everybody. Welcome along. It is our Christmas party, our New Year's Eve party, everything rolled into one. And I am joined, as I should be for such an occasion, by Tim Flower. Tim, welcome back to Reality Bytes. How you doing?
Thank you, sir. Good to be back. It's if this is our Christmas show, I'm gonna go get the spiked eggnog and we'll turn it into a real party.
Can I just ask, what is eggnog? I've never actually had it. It's like the sort of thing you always cite in these, but it sounds disgusting just on the.
You've never had eggnog? Oh my God, that's like never watch. You probably never watched Star Wars, and that's the basic of life, Tom. You gotta have eggnog.
Well, yeah. I guess it's a confession then. I wonder how many people on this call have had eggnog. We are joined by Dina, Oriana, Sam, and Megan today. Welcome to all of you to the party. Couldn't be joined by Sean, but he is, of course, with us in spirit. We're going to be going through everybody's thoughts on the year that was 2022 in experience. But I want to begin, Tim. I remember at the top of the year we had a bit of a chat about 2022 more generally, and you had your whole baseball analogy. Right. I didn't understand any of it, but it sounded really cool. And I was wondering, in hindsight, what your thoughts were more broadly on 2022, on the year of a post-pandemic, if you will. What are your reflections there?
Yeah, I think 2021 was the year of watch out for in your ear, make sure the baseball doesn't hit you in the head. 2022. No, I think we made that comment about 2022. We were expecting to kind of come out of it and get it back to a little bit more of business as usual in terms of planning and technology. And I think for the most part, we didn't get hit in the head with the baseball, right? We started to come out of it. We're making some plans now. We're still in this state of flux. We're still in a funky spot, I think.
Yeah, it had a peculiar atmosphere to it. 2022, I think. But if we focus on experience, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be moving through all the Reality Byters with us today and hearing about their thoughts on the year that was. But starting with you, Tim, I mean, when you focus on experience specifically and on the industry specifically, a more optimistic picture than perhaps the broader perspective, and what really stands out to you? What do you think 2022 in experience was the year of?
First, I need to comment on the name for the fellow participants, the Reality Byters. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. I just came up with it just then. Believe it or not, I know it sounds like I thought it up ages ago, but
no, it's good. So I tried to look at this and summarize it up just in a quick statement, and I think one word. I think 2022 was the year of the shift. And in many different regards, right? We're shifting back and forth to the office. We're shifting from kind of this remote work to now being able to get back in and get some work done with our coworkers. We're shifting. Many enterprises, if not all, are shifting with market conditions. The beginning of 2022 was much different than now the end of 2022 in terms of the market. Many people are shifting to a new job. The great resignation meant that people now are shifting to new roles and new accountabilities. Part of what we talked about at Experience Everywhere, also shifting to new salaries, both for the employee as well as the employer. Expenses have gone up for employers to get talent. So there's a lot of shift that went on in 2022. And even as we talk to our customers, one of the shifts that we're seeing as we talk to prospective customers is the reasons they want to talk to us. Earlier in 2020 and 2021, it was all about enabling people to work remotely. And that still is the case in many cases. But now a lot of the conversation is, how do I employ your technology to help me save money? Right? The shift is, I really need to get the most out of my budgets and my spend. And rather than just cutting line items in my budget, how do I deploy technology for the primary reason of saving money? So lots of things shifting. It should be real interesting to see how it plays out next year.
I love that, Tim, not only because, in a sense, you've kind of picked one that reflects the world at large, right? The whole world has been shifting from the pandemic to the post-pandemic and digesting all of the changes, all of the societal changes instigated by this very strange period of the last few years. And simultaneously, I feel like a few of the shifts you pick out there we're going to be able to drill down a little bit when we come to our, as I've now christened them, Reality Biters. So let's welcome the first one to the Christmas party. Oriana, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
And what were your feelings about 2022 at large, Oriana? A good year, a poor year, somewhere in between? What do you think?
I think it's been a really great year in many respects. Obviously, I can't speak for anybody else, but it's been a year of a lot of learning and really appreciate it.
Much to appreciate. We were all allowed, out the house again and things. That was nice, wasn't it? But so when you think about Tim's characterization of the year of the shift, is there anything in there specifically that stood out, or that you wanted to drill down on, or did you have your own angle on what the year was all about as an industry for us?
When he posed the question, the thing that came to my mind is that 2022 has been the year of the worker. And so everything that Tim said really resonated with me. I've been thinking a lot about how like you said, the Great Resignation affected things, but also a lot of the discussions I've been seeing about things like people being really interested in upskilling and also questions of quality of life. I think all of these relate back to so many of the conversations we've had about the importance of DEX and people really caring about the experiences that they're having in the workplace, companies knowing that they want to both be more efficient and productive, and that sometimes the best way of doing that is by making sure they're creating the best possible environment for their workers and having really big questions about how to do that without incurring more costs.
Excellent. And I mean, question for everybody, for anybody based upon what Oriana says. We got used to that kind of unprecedented level of employee power during the pandemic and during the Great Resignation. Times have changed, circumstances have changed, certainly. But does anybody agree or disagree that some of those, the new emphasis in putting the employee first, putting their experiences first, putting their feelings first within so many workplaces, do we think that it's something that's going to survive the pandemic, survive the entrance into a new kind of economic context, or something that's going to almost revert back to something more resembling the pre-pandemic era? I just hope that wants to the group. Anybody, Oriana, yourself, anybody else? What do we think?
I think we will keep it along as we go, as we are creatures of habit and we adapt. So survival is for the most adaptable at this age and time. So I think this will be something that we will take on as we go, as part of the new norm or the post-pandemic behavior of human beings and people in tech in particular.
Yeah, kind of almost like one of those things like we all wear tracksuit bottoms, as we call them in England, more often when we leave the house now, joggers, I believe they're called in America, right? It's one of those things that's just stuck from the pandemic and may never revert. Such with employee power, slightly more positive one. And what about you then, Dina? When you reflect upon the year as an industry, what really stands out?
So what really stands out for me is the question that we get asked mostly from our customers is how can we maintain measuring experience and supporting a hybrid workspace, whether our employees, users were connected from the office or anywhere really, and how can we maintain operating in this new norm? So this has been one of the most topics, most stories that we've been sharing back and forth with our customers. And the fact that people have visibility and they are actually putting sentiment, they're putting their feelings, they're putting not just the key hard metrics that we can measure in place, but also the sentiment aspect of things. into the equation, it gives a different kind of perspectives. It's not always better to connect from the office, and it's not always working when you're working from home. So it's the balance between both, and how IT can manage to maintain a hybrid environment as we go forward. Again, as this is becoming the new norm for now, with all the changes that is going on, people need to be able to have this site like this kind of control over the site of what they see, how they can support the users better, and how we can keep the quality of actually delivering the service to our users at the top notch wherever they are.
Mm. And anybody with a sort of customer-facing role or who's engaged with customers very much. I mean, I remember at the top of the pandemic, you heard about all of these very large and lavish new workspaces, or large, lavish kind of workspaces that have been built or bought by large companies and customers of ours, suddenly sitting there completely empty. Of course, not just for the first year of the pandemic, but then as people adapted to that kind of sort of work from home era, even post-pandemic or the beginnings of a post-pandemic era. Now, how do we feel people, in terms of people who are talking to customers regularly, do we have a sense that people are really trickling back, that some of these investments are kind of bearing more fruit in terms of being populated, in terms of being used? I mean, what do we reckon? Are they sitting empty, or are they starting to resemble the old normal a bit more?
So, Tom, I was out in the spring. I was out in Austin, Texas, and visited a large global automobile manufacturer based in Japan, and it was really interesting to see. They had just built a huge campus, 5 or 6 beautiful buildings, all glass, big parking lots, and it was almost entirely empty. And it was real interesting to see as we walked through the campus with the IT folks, there were actually employees that were starting to come back into the office, and we actually witnessed the first, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 2 years, the hugs in the hallways, so it was that energy of, we're coming out of this, we're starting to see people come back to the office. And I think this year has progressed with more of that. It's also interesting to see how employers are handling it. Do they mandate that happens? If they do, what's the implication to the employees? Do they stay? Do they go somewhere else? That's why I think 2023 is really going to be where some concepts over the last couple of years start to solidify, and what are the operating norms. But my observation was we're definitely seeing people come back into the office, but still very much in a hybrid way. Yeah,
very much in a hybrid way. I mean, so you sort of noticed when I visited the Nexthink HQ, which is now in Boston, that I think it's a case that for a few days of the week it sits this very lovely, large kind of office. It sits relatively empty, and then for a day or two of that week, there's a fluctuation. Everybody flocks in. Yeah. Everybody spends that time together. Everybody goes out together, and so offices serve this kind of like episodic bonding function, almost. I mean, we haven't heard from Megan or Sam yet. Is that an accurate description of how it goes down in Boston for you too? You obviously live there. And
absolutely. I'm in the office as we speak, Tom, and I can say it's one of those days where the population is small. So today's a quiet, keep your head down day. But
couple of days a week, it's really just a fancy greenhouse, right?
That's right.
Pretty much.
Natural lighting.
So what's brought you in today, Sam?
What's brought me in today is that my apartment is running a bunch of maintenance checks, and I didn't want my fire alarm. I didn't want my fire alarm being tested while we're on this podcast. I wouldn't do that to our listeners. It's quite the fire alarm. So I made my way down.
There you go. This is a function of the office. Maybe it provides a place to escape to and record podcasts to when you have a house maintenance. Well, Sam, a few people will have a better perspective on 2022 and all the different stories which have dominated it than the editor-in-chief of the DEX Hub. So tell us, man, what has been your standout selection?
Yeah, so this story obviously reflects some of the larger changes that Tim spoke about earlier. But one thing I've really identified is that this year has been the year of the skills gap dilemma across kind of all job functions, but specifically in IT. And that is because, all of the changes that we've talked about of the past few years have meant that the responsibilities of IT workers have evolved considerably. And so companies are now in this position where they're trying to hire for these new technology positions. They're looking for candidates who are skilled in, data analytics, automation, AI, and these other kind of technology trends that are either newer or have kind of evolved way faster than the timeline was looking like they would evolve pre-pandemic. And a lot of these companies are struggling to find, candidates with these skills that fit the roles they're looking for. And so it can be a very costly proposition. And so one thing that we're seeing, especially as we move into the next year, is that, how an IT department is able to develop their talent internally to kind of adjust to these new technologies and these new responsibilities is going to be a big indicator of how successful they are moving forward, both how quickly they'll be able to kind of be agile and adopt to these new trends, but also, how much money they're going to save. Because when companies, are sitting with these open positions on the market for months or even up to a year, and they're struggling to find the right people, it can be a very costly project hiring new employees. So I would say that internal development within IT departments is something that, speaking to, various customers and people across the industry, that's something they're really thinking about right now, and something that moving forward is going to be a challenge that kind of the leading companies, it's going to be an area where they really separate themselves from the pack.
Fascinating. Really good example. Tim, you probably have the longest career on the panel today, which is not to say that it's so very long, sir. But when you hear this kind of circumstances as described by Sam, is there a period in your career that you can think back to where you think, you saw this kind of transition almost between kind of technology eras, and that there was a sudden skill gap, and how are they best navigated?
Yeah, I can go back to a few different cultural and technology shifts. The biggest one, I'm going to age myself here, but one of the biggest ones was moving from manually building and installing PCs with either floppy disks or CDs or DVDs one at a time, to the era of electronic software distribution, packaging and pushing things to thousands of PCs. And the first time, it was the oh my God, look what we can do overnight. We just installed something on 2,000 machines with one person. But we realized the danger of that automation as well. It's great that all 2,000 got it, but guess what? All 2,000 of them broke. And we didn't know they broke until they called the help desk. So that shift in mindset, that you can cause great pain with something, you really got to have change control down. You got to have new processes. You got to have a new mindset that you could really impact a lot of people. That shift, I think, is happening now as well, but it's been a long time coming. You can now understand what employees are going through, understand the effect of technology, as well as of their scenario and their work life, and shifting that and finding the right people, technologists that also have empathy and understanding, and getting adrenaline from improving the employee situation. I think that's the shift right now, and finding the right people that can really can change the game along with technology.
Makes me want to come back for a moment to our resident technology psychologist, Oriana. Oriana, what do you think plays an important role from your perspective in helping employees to navigate these kind of transitional periods in particular?
I think there's a few different factors that can help smooth the transition to new processes, new systems, or even just reverting to old ones, right? Like Dina mentioned, we can be creatures of habit, and it can be hard to switch to something that we used to do, but we don't do any longer. I think some of the big ones are just being really conscious of change process as a human experience and a business process. often people in IT learn about change management from this very technological perspective, whereas if you ask a person on the business side, they will say change process is all about education and communication. And that's really different from, say, pushing an update to 2,000 computers. It requires understanding people's motivations, different teams' needs, and then tailoring your messaging to them to help them understand why changes are happening, how it will affect them, and also get feedback and understand how you can make sure that you are accommodating the different needs of different people, different teams, etc.
Yeah, fantastic point. And it's almost like if you compare the transition Tim describes to the one we're kind of currently anticipating, it's a difference of one that's kind of completely dominated by a kind of skill gap and a learning process to one that is a little more psychological and a little bit more about individuals and employees and experiences. Thanks everyone. That's interesting stuff. Leading us to our final reflection on 2022. It's Megan. How you doing, Megan? Well, how was 2022 for you, first of all?
2022 for me. 2022 for
it's
me.
Kind of this was your first year as a Nexthinker, actually, end to end.
Way to steal
like January
my
the 1st,
comment.
Right?
I did, yeah. I started at Nexthink at the very beginning of January. So 2022 for me was literally the year of Nexthink and of learning about this space. So quite eventful.
Quite eventful. That's like a very neutral way of putting it. It was eventful.
I've learned a lot.
Being a Nexthinker.
But more broadly, and I think you could say personally for me, this was the year of DEX because I was getting to know Nexthink. But I think also more broadly, this has been the year of DEX really taking off, really getting recognition. And I think driven by a lot of the other points that everybody has made so far today, I think. And when you look at this being the year of the employee and employee retention, that obviously was a driver. You want to deliver a better employee experience, and included in that is a digital employee experience. Mm-hmm. Same with some of the other points, hybrid work, even like skilling up and this mindset shift is all kind of can be subsumed under this idea of this being a year of DEX. And then on top of that, you also have the kind of analyst validation, this sort of larger recognition of DEX, not only as a nice to have, but as a category that's kind of a must have. So you had the Forrester wave, which I think previously had been the new wave, but now we have the Forrester wave on DEX and then the DEX market guide from Gartner. So across the whole landscape, you have this recognition within, I think, businesses that if they want to continue to drive outcomes, whether that's employee retention or attracting the best talent or being able to streamline processes and optimize your budget so that you can eliminate spend intelligently. I think no matter what, you're seeing businesses really start to understand the importance and almost the fact that you have to have DEX if you want to be successful in this next stage. So I would call 2022 the year of DEX.
It's a fine note to finish the discussion. And I completely agree with you, Megan. I was, I've not just got 1 year under my belt. So maybe I have the additional perspective of a couple more before it. And I was sat in the audience at Experience London listening to Dan from Gartner, a friend of the show, shout out, talking about DEX and using the term DEX. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible, to hear Gartner adopt an acronym that was developed in this organization by this organization. It must be a milestone. I mean, for anybody else who's been here longer than me or as long as me or whatnot, I mean, how significant did 2022 feel in the development of this space to them?
I think it's really big. When I came here, I've been here 7 years. When I started, it was about endpoint analytics. Tough to relate to, tough to really understand if it was even a nice to have at that point. And to see not only the product, but the company, our processes, how we relate to our prospects and our customers, as well as the market and the analysts adopting now something that really not only resonates, but it doesn't just sound like a need to have. It is a need to have, and getting enterprises to really see that. So many around the world have adopted it. When I compare 2022 to 2015, it's a completely different world. I couldn't be happier with where things are going for IT in general. It's pretty cool.
I couldn't agree more with Tim. I've been here for 5 years, and the perspective of digital employee experience, the DEX now, and having that back then, like 5 years ago, it was a bit harder to explain and show people what it is, how they can measure sentiment, how can they include experience, what does experience mean. But actually this year has been one of the very nice successful ones where you can hear about DEX and read about DEX in all kinds of platforms in all kinds of different industries. So it's been a very fantastic thing to see and watch how product has evolved and how IT is changing their actual perspective from just the red-green to looking into measuring experience.
Wonderful, a lovely, optimistic and very accurate note to end the year on. And, I'm just going to add, actually, it's also been for us all, it's been the year of Reality Bytes. We obviously launched it this year. And we kind of got some end of year stats in from the DEX show for 2022. We were in the top 15% worldwide of the most followed podcasts, in the top 20% of the most shared globally. And we had over 30,000 streams of the show. That's the DEX show at large across the year, which is just huge growth for the show.
Amazing.
And it's really reflective to a large degree of introducing Reality Bytes to the DEX show mix. It's really been a great addition. Just want to say, just at large, huge thanks to everybody who was a guest on the DEX show. Huge thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to Tim. Thanks to Catherine, our producer. And last but not least, thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in. We hugely appreciate it. And in terms of the rest of the year, we're hoping we will get one last DEX show out this year, but this will be the last Reality Bytes for sure until January, when we'll all be back again with you for 2023. So with that, it just leaves me to say thanks again for everybody on the show today, for coming by today and bringing their reflections, and look forward to seeing you all next year. I guess you could say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.